Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Real or Real podcast. I'm Bone Dragon, and joining me as always,
Dixie Dustin!
today's story is it's a rough one. It's a really rough one.
Do we have content warnings?
Yes, we do have content warnings. So if you are worried about, uh, let's see here, I'm trying to think of all of them. There's murder, obviously. There is sexual assault, drug use, um, torture, and home invasion. That was the other one. Okay.
I'm not sure if I want to hear this.
Well, well, too bad. You're going to have to sit here and listen to it.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Hey, after that last one,
that last one was good.
your last one was good, but
It was a little darker than the first
It
one.
was pretty dark. This one it's going to get really rough. On last podcast on the left, they would call this a gold star episode. For those of you who know, that's yeah, you know what that means.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Let me tell you a story.
All right, so for this story, let's start off with a man named Carl Felder. Carl was born in Waterbury, Connecticut, and as a kid, he was, his mom took off and
Aw.
pretty much left him alone with his highly abusive father.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're cooking a serial killer.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. So his father was very abusive. He was an abusive drunk who pretty much would take turns between kicking the crap out of Carl and kicking the crap out of the dog. So both Carl and the dog were like terrified of this guy.
It's bad enough that it's the kid, but it's got to be the dog too?
I know, right?
Come on.
But yeah, so as you said, nature and nurture pretty much collided here. And Carl was highly intelligent, like really intelligent. But, given what he was dealing with, he was also a massive sociopath. There was one time he was caught having killed a squirrel and was dissecting it. And when his teachers were asking him why he did that, he basically just said, I just want to know what's going on in there.
Well, I mean, what was the name of that guy? The guy that invented the flying machine. Was it Da Vinci?
Yeah, the weird one. Yeah.
Yeah, that also did oh my goodness. We should not record after midnight.
I know.
Wow. He did autopsies. He did autopsies in a time when autopsies weren't a thing to learn how the inside of the human body works. So, I mean, you could go either direction with this. You could be a genius and want to know how things work on the inside, or you could be a genius and want to unalive things just for the heck of it.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he eventually grew up into a man, no longer a small boy. Now he is a large, hulking dude. Like, this guy's really big. Basically, he's got the Bluto look going on.
Ah.
Big, huge, bearded guy. I'm
Large.
yeah, exactly. I'm expecting what is her name?
Large.
What is her name?
Olive oil.
No, the
Oh.
actress.
Oh, Shelley Duvall.
Yeah, Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
I'm expecting Shelley Duvall to just suddenly start singing about him.
Large. But he's mine. Okay.
You can have him.
I'll stop.
All right. So the thing about him, though, was that he, as an adult, he was pretty much pushed into a life of crime. His mom was gone long time ago, and his dad's gone now, and it's just him. So he didn't have any way of making a way for himself other than crime.
Yeah, he had to resort to a life of crime to fend for himself.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that, he wasn't just some bonehead thug, that would just like break into a place and to steal what he can get or whatever. But no, he was incredibly cunning and analytical. He was known for studying his targets before committing crimes. In other words, it wasn't just like a off the cuff kind of, I'm going to attack this person just because they're there type of thing. No, he spent some time figuring out what he was going to do. He was known for murder, sexual assault, robbery, and mugging. All right.
Now, was he like convicted of had he been like arrested? Was he charged for those things, or just
Oh yeah.
people knew of him that he would probably allegedly did these things?
No. He was arrested and he
Okay,
was
so he
charged
was
for
in
it.
and out of jail.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
constantly in and out of jail, but that's the thing. Is he was smart.
So none of it stuck.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well, no, not that it didn't stick. It all stuck. He was also patient.
Oh.
So whenever he committed a crime and he got caught, he would just walk into jail and be like, "Yeah, I'm guilty." He would
Okay.
plead guilty because that way he knew that he would get less time.
All right.
So that's what he did. But eventually he started getting into the more hardcore crimes like murder and sexual assault, stuff like that. So he was going to be put away for a long time this last time. And while in jail, he met a man named Jacob Dillon Jr. And God, this guy's basically your typical yappy dog underling. The kind, the guy that's going to hype up. If you're the big guy, he's going to be the one hyping you up to go kill somebody or something.
Yeah.
Basically, he was known as psychotic and real easy to manipulate, which is something that Felder was looking for. Just someone who would do whatever he said. And
He needed a yes man.
Yeah, Dylan was pretty much the kind of guy who, as long as he thought that it was fun, he was all for it. The things that he found fun, the things that he was willing to do are pretty messed up. So, yeah.
So he may have had some psychological issues.
Yeah. He had... Oops. Punched the microphone. No,
Take that microphone.
Yeah. Dylan was the kind of person who was in jail because he needed to be in jail. He's one of those mad dog type of people who, did not need to be part of society.
A menace to society.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But that was Dylan.
While drinking his juice in the hood.
Sure.
Obscure reference day.
Yay! So, one day, And nobody knows how this happened. Nobody knows. That ought to tell you how intelligent Felder is. One day, Felder and Dylan were able to escape from prison.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so that kind of that's a bad thing, you know.
So
You've got this super intelligent psycho and this absolutely insane guy running around together out in the open, you know.
do we know what kind of prison they were in? Was it like a maximum
It
security?
was a maximum security.
County?
It was. Hang on, let me tell you which one it was. It was.
You don't have to go into details. I was just making sure they weren't in like some county lockup, with
No, it was. It for those of you who know. For those of you who know, it was the Garner Correctional Facility in Connecticut. It is a max security facility. That's why people are like, "How the hell did you do this?" You know?
okay.
But yeah, he's not giving answers. Anyway, so they escaped from jail. And let me tell you about a woman named Ethel Meltz. Okay? Ethel Meltz.
I'm sorry, her name.
I know, right? I know.
Ethel Meltz.
Ethel Meltz. Ethel melts at the hands of a man.
Elphaba melts too. Oh.
Ethel Meltz originally was from Arizona. I can't remember exactly where from Arizona, but she was from Arizona, where she lived with her parents. And once again, her parents were incredibly abusive, which is a sad deal for Ethel. But before, in one of his many stints where he was not in jail, Carl Felder just happened to be in Arizona at this time. Okay? So Ethel Meltz meets Carl Felder, and he convinces her that her best option is to kill her parents and run away with him.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, I know,
Oh
right?
my goodness.
The thing is that Ethel kind of had some issues of her own.
So I'm assuming she's like a young adult or a minor if he's like, oh yeah, you got to off your parents.
At this time, she was a young adult. He was round about like 25.
Okay.
Okay. So she was like 19, I think. Yeah. 19, he was 25. She, at one point, she made plans she told him that she was going to kill her parents and to meet her out in front of the house and they could take off together. Instead of killing her parents, she just left. So she didn't actually kill her parents.
So she's trying to get street cred without actually doing the deed.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But she just snuck out of the house, ran up to his car, and they took off. Okay? Don't let that confuse you, though, because Ethel Meltz was seriously messed up. Because of her past, and because, just like with Felder, she had a lot of issues, and she was known as being very cold and calculating. She was heartless, and one description of her was that she was simply evil. So she's just because she couldn't kill her parents doesn't mean she's not the suspect in some other things that happened, okay?
Well, I mean, it not necessarily that she couldn't. She just decided not to.
Yeah. So,
And who knows? Somebody with psychological issues, who knows the reasoning behind not doing something,
right, exactly.
She could
So,
have had some kind of messed up reason for not offing them.
All right, so they met well before he was in prison. So Ethel is pretty much just like waiting around for him to figure out some way to get him out of jail because he's on a life sentence at this point because of some stuff that he did. So she is living in a town called Wilton, waiting to hear something from Felder. It's now August 30th, 1972. The Jameson family, Fred, who was the father, he's a Vietnam vet who returned home many years prior and was looking forward to, didn't want to fight anymore. He was looking forward to settling down and living a life of peace and quiet. People said that he was a strongly, he was a very family man. He was very proud of his family and worked hard to provide for them and just basically wanted to be a good husband and father. Okay. Then there's Cheryl, who's the mother. She's a former hippie who had become disillusioned with that lifestyle. And then she spent most of her teen and early adult years protesting and living a transient lifestyle and whatnot. Then when she met Fred, she gave all of that up because she loved him. Like she actually fell for him pretty hard and decided to settle down and have a family with him.
So she had gone full hippie.
Yeah, she was full on 100% hippie. But she
follow the evil dead. Oh my gosh. Follow the Grateful Dead around in a van.
Probably. But that's the thing though, is that, I think she started to realize that, that lifestyle was not as glamorous as everybody made it out to be. So that's why she was so willing to give it up when she met Fred. And so they had a daughter, 17-year-old Susan, who she's a good kid, typical teenage kid, typical teenage girl in the 70s. She had some secrets that she's not going to tell her parents like any teenage girl, but mostly she's known as being a fairly good kid. Okay. And Susan has a friend named Carrie. And Fred and Cheryl are not exactly happy that their daughter's friends with this person, but she really hasn't done anything to really warrant them to ban her from being friends. Okay.
Oh, it's just the whole, she's a bad influence.
Yeah.
Not having anything to back it up.
Yeah, that's that situation. That's what's going on.
Gotcha. They just didn't like her.
Yeah, they just didn't like her. That's all that it really comes down to. All right, so the Jameson family lived in a rural area. Why do I always have problems saying that word? Rural. God, the dog's going to go nuts. All right, so the Jameson family lived in a rural area just outside Westport, Connecticut. During the summer, Susan and Carrie decided that they were going to take in a Killer Watt concert, which Killer Watt was a band, not the Irish metal band that we know today. That I know today.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Leave a comment.
Please.
No comments on this.
If you listen to Killer Watt, I want to hear from you. Please tell me I'm not the only one.
And see, and I was also going to make a joke about their last name being Jameson, but I kind of just, I don't know.
Jameson.
I zoned out.
Are they stout? They are stout people. Okay, so, all right, so they decided that they were going to go see Killer Watt. Killer Watt, not the Irish band. It was a local band to the Connecticut area during the 70s and 80s. They were more known for a funk southern rock cover band type thing. And I couldn't find much on them at all besides that. So that ought to tell you about, how big of a band this was. It was probably a band that played a few shows, and that was it.
Unlike us, They are not available on Spotify.
Exactly. But hey,
We
Killer
are.
Watt, the Irish metal band, they are. Go check them out.
And so are we.
Yeah. All right. So Susan and Carrie decide that they're going to go to this concert. And Fred and Cheryl weren't exactly happy about the fact that she was going to a show with Carrie. But, you know, they're like, she's getting to be an adult. Plus, Carrie's not that bad. You know, Susan can start making decisions for herself. You know, we're trying to treat her more like an adult, so let's go ahead and do that. And they're like, okay, fine, you go to the show. But before she left, Cheryl gave Susan one of her peace sign necklaces to wear for the show. When Susan and Carrie got to town, they decided to see if they could score some weed from somewhere. Okay. That's when they met a man that introduced himself as Junior. He said that he knew a place where they could get some weed, and so they all piled into the car and started driving to where Junior said to go. Of course, that was mistake number one.
Yeah, because this is JDJ, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He led them to an out-of-the-way shack and said that his friend could get it for them. And the girls didn't realize that Junior was, in fact, Jacob Dylan Jr.
JDJ!
And he was leading them back to Felder and Metz. To Felder and Meltz. And that's when the torture begins. Yeah, this is going to start being the rough part now. Okay.
And this is where I tap out. It's been fun. Good night, folks.
Tap out now. Trust
Yes.
me, you don't want to hear this. All right, so that's when the torture began. For the whole night, Felder, Dylan, and Meltz forced the girls into sexual acts on each other, then took turns assaulting them, both sexually and physically, cutting them with knives and stringing them up and threatening that they would hunt them down or kill the other or kill them and their families if they tried to escape. So the next morning, Felder and the others tied the girls up, gagged them, and shoved them into the trunk of Carrie's car. Then they started driving into what they thought was the middle of nowhere. And once there, Felder knew, because once again, he's able to plan this stuff out. Felder knew that they had to ditch the car and continue on foot. But before they did, they decided to take the girls out of the trunk and do more to them before ending that situation, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
And
wow.
When they opened the trunk, Carrie just burst out and took off running. Okay. So Felder and Meltz chased after her, leaving Dylan to watch Susan by himself. No one knows how, but they just know that Dylan was able to come into possession of that necklace that Susan had, that peace sign necklace. Some people think that she gave it to him in an attempt to escape, and some think that he just took it. You know, nobody really knows. It's all speculation. But either way, he got that necklace from her. Okay? So Felder and Meltz came back without Carrie, saying that they need to go. I wonder why. They pulled Susan out of the trunk and set the car on fire. Then Felder told Susan to run. Just run. And as soon as she got out 150 meters, he shot her in the back. And then they all just left her there to die.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's bad. All right, so the rest of the story is being taken from a statement made by Cheryl Jameson, who's the mother.
Right.
Take it as you will, but this is her recount of what happened. Okay. Back at the Jameson house, Fred and Cheryl were starting to get a little worried because Susan was not the type to just disappear without calling, right? So they spent the day calling friends and asking if they'd seen her. And later in the afternoon, three salesmen show up at the door. And they said that they had some car trouble and would like to use the phone. So the salesman called the local mechanic and were told that they wouldn't be able to get the car fixed until the next day. At least that's the story that they told the Jamesons. So the Jamesons allowed them to stay the night.
Oh my goodness. Don't tell me that this is the three.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Luck of all luck. These three people that just killed these two girls brutally found their way to the house of one of the girls' parents. Tell me how that happens,
oh my goodness.
right?
Well, I mean, was it coincidence or had Felder been, because he's meticulous in calculating and he plans his stuff. Were they targets all along, these two girls?
Yeah, but he's not omnipotent, you know. I don't think that he was watching them. I think it was a crime of convenience just because they wanted to.
Oh, okay.
And they were just, I think Dylan was there at the concert just to find someone to
Pick
do
up
this
somebody.
to. Yeah, pick up
Right. Okay.
somebody. And them showing up at the Jamesons' property, I can't help but feel like that was just coincidence.
Okay.
That as far as they knew, they just drove out to the middle of nowhere and left the car and the bodies, and were just walking along. Okay. The problem that I have with this is that the next part seems a bit out of character, which causes me to question Cheryl's statement, because we know Felder as the kind of person he's very smart. He knows that when he does something illegal, he should not be talking about it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, unless he planned on not them being gone when he left there. Like
Yeah,
unless they planned on getting rid of them too as they walked out of this house.
yeah, and that
So I
could,
could see him being like kind of braggy because he's like, well, I'm going to do the same thing to you all. So here's what I did.
yeah. Well, I mean, that here's the thing though, he didn't tell them. Like he didn't tell the Jamesons. Cheryl said that she had overheard Felder and Meltz talking about what they just did, like in another room.
Hmm.
So she went and told Fred about it, and she's like super upset. So they've got these people in their house. What are they going to do? Okay, well, Fred's like, all right, we need to double check this. We need to make sure that they're just not talking shit. So Fred and Cheryl sneak out of the house and ran into the woods. And soon they found Carrie's body. She had been shot in the head. Of course, their friend or their daughter's friend is lying there dead in front of them. So now they're even more upset and trying to figure out where their daughter is. And they kept looking, and sure enough, they eventually found the burned out husk of the car, and they found Susan, who somehow she had lived the initial gunshot. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And she had crawled another 200 meters away. She lived, but only long enough to tell her parents what happened. All right. So Fred realizes who is in his house now because they had heard radio reports of these three people that had escaped from prison and to be on the lookout and everything like that. So Fred now realizes who's in the house and he's like, well, shit, you know? So Fred and Cheryl try to come up with a plan of what to do. As far as they knew, the three people had no idea that they knew yet. Okay, so the plan was for them to go back into the house. Fred was going to keep them busy through, like, I don't know, playing Parcheesi,
Charades.
yeah, charades or whatever. Monopoly, that'll keep you busy for a few hours. Um, but yeah, Fred was going to keep them busy while Cheryl phoned the police. Okay. The only problem with this plan was that it's the early 70s and they live pretty far into a rural, there's that word again, rural area, and it would take a while for the cops to get there, right?
So definitely Monopoly.
Yeah, absolutely Monopoly. I mean, you know, I don't know because we all know how a game of Monopoly ends with somebody throwing the table.
Yeah, but it usually takes 3 to 4 hours to get to that point, so they should be good.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
All right, so later that night, the Westport police received a phone call saying that there were dangerous people in a house nearby. And so the police deployed to the house, and what they found was a mess. Okay? The Jamesons were sitting on their front porch holding each other. Felder's body was in the yard, having been torn open. The coroner said that it had to have been by some kind of like lawn tool or something, some kind of like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. They couldn't find what it actually was, but he was messed up.
Werewolf.
Sure.
It was a werewolf.
As they were searching the crime scene and whatnot, the police eventually found Melts in the pool with her throat cut and Dylan bleeding out in the bathroom. Okay, so
Definitely a werewolf attack.
absolutely,
Yes.
100%. If you've seen the Wolfman, yeah.
Yes.
All right, the good Wolfman. Okay, so the one with the old black and white one, or the one with Benicio del Toro, not that new one.
Not the new one.
No.
The new one wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't horrible.
Yeah. Anyway, so the court case against the Jamesons was kind of a weird one, okay? So the arguments were made that they had murdered these three people when there were other options available. That was the one that the prosecutors were going with on this, okay? But the defense basically went with, first of all, self-defense.
Right.
Secondly, look at who the victims are.
Exactly.
You know, look at what they just done. That the couple tried to keep the group there and, you know, waiting for the police, and the plane went sideways and they had to go in and you know, do something about it. So
They had to
defend
resort to
themselves.
other measures.
Yeah.
Yes.
And eventually the couple were both found not guilty by reason of self-defense through through, it wasn't called this at the time, but basically it's through castle statutes. So like the castle laws or whatever, but they called it something different at the time. I can't remember what, but basically they're saying that they weren't guilty by reason of self-defense.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that is the story.
Oh, abrupt ending.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Pixie.
I didn't know we were there yet.
Yeah,
All right,
we
go
are
ahead.
there. Pixie,
I'm awake.
is this story real? Is it a real report? Or is it a fictional storyline?
Wow, this one is kind of difficult
Yeah.
because I could see it being real, but also, like, I could also see it being a Rob Zombie movie.
You know what? I could too. I
You
could
know?
absolutely see this being a Rob Zombie movie.
Like,
Except
that's what I kept thinking the whole time.
except that there's not a lot of cussing and,
Well, I mean, there could be.
Sherry Moon Zombie's ass crack and
I mean, there could be.
I
There,
mean
I'm sure there would be.
yeah, there could be.
There would be.
I doubt it, but
Uh, oh my gosh. I don't know. You've stumped me. I guess for sake of just having to pick one, I'm going to go with real. REAL. This really happened.
okay, so you think that this really happened.
Sure.
Okay. This is the storyline of Last House on the Left.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Exactly. That's why I picked it.
It's
Last House on the Left.
It's been on my radar to watch it though for like a long time.
Yeah.
And everybody listening is laughing at me right now.
Probably so, but that's okay because I'm willing to bet that anybody that's seen that movie or the terrible remake that they did figured it out pretty early.
Rob Zombie needs to remake Last House on the Left.
No, Rob Zombie does not need to remake Last House on the Left. Dear God in heaven,
Okay,
please
so
don't put that out there.
I'm in the minority. I like Rob Zombie movies.
I don't mind Rob Zombie movies, but, he remade Halloween and it was good. He did not want to do the sequel, but they hired him to do it anyway, and
So
look what
yeah,
he
he
did
screwed
with
it up. Yeah.
He screwed it up intentionally. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about him doing
A
remakes.
remake of Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would watch it. But anyway,
so
you have more to tell me.
Last House on the Left was a 1972 movie directed by Wes Craven. It is considered the most controversial movie of that year.
I didn't realize it was a Wes Craven movie. Now I have like offended all of the Wes Craven fans by saying Rob Zombie should remake it because like Wes Craven is a genius.
Yeah. To get an R rating on this movie, there had to be a lot of cuts. I mean, a lot of cuts.
Yeah, a lot left up to the imagination. Yeah.
Yeah. And
a lot of inference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even that R rating for this, even the R-rated movie was banned in Britain until 2002.
So it was a hard R.
Yeah. And the uncut version was unbanned in 2008. The movie was also banned in New Zealand until 2004. Yeah.
And is still banned in North Korea.
Yeah. Well,
as is everything else.
What's not banned in North Korea? All right. So there was a sequel commissioned. I don't know why I wrote prequel. There was a sequel commissioned, but it fell apart. Never got made. Mario Bava's movie Twitch of the Death Nerve was also released as Last House Part 2, Last House on the Left Part 2, or New House on the Left. So it was the original movie Twitch of the Death Nerve was released as under those three other titles.
To the left, to the left.
Yeah, right.
All these movies about houses to the left. I don't know.
All right, everybody. So that is episode 3.
I hope you enjoyed watching me be or listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to my unintelligent answer at the end.
It's not unintelligent. I disguised it pretty well.
Did you? I'm gonna have to watch it
There's
now.
a few details that I left out, or some details that I
I'm
changed.
not gonna watch it because that sounds
It's
like a little too much for me.
it's a rough story. It really
Yeah,
is.
that sounds like right up there with like Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah,
I don't think I can do that.
probably not. I mean, it
No,
is pretty hard to watch.
I'm not. I don't like gore. Like it doesn't bother me, but like it's like it doesn't bother me like as in it doesn't scare me, but like it kind of it a little bit psychologically it bothers me. Even though I know it's not real when I watch it in a movie, it's still it's just I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I it's hard to imagine people could do things like that. I don't know. Okay, but we're wrapping it up.
All right. So
Yeah.
this. All right. So thank you for listening to episode 3 of the Real or Real podcast. I hope that you enjoy. And this is Bone Dragon saying thank you and have a good weekend.
Bye everybody.
Bye.